Scott Paul is the Associate Director of Peace and Security with OXFAM America. He's joining us from Washington, D.C. Thank you very much for your time, Mr. Paul. We're hearing that the first shipment of aid to the US-built floating pier in Gaza has departed from Cyprus. Just how much of a difference do these ships make compared to what can come through land crossings?
Thanks for having me on, and I appreciate hearing the testimonies of people who are in Gaza now. And what you'll hear, having heard them, is, of course, every pallet, every truckload of aid matters, whether it's food, water supplies, medicine, every little bit matters. But there's a separate question as to whether a mechanism like this is worth what it costs and worth the amount of political attention and political support that's necessary to get it off the ground, when the alternative is that same political pressure could be put on making sure ground routes are open, which are more scalable, safer, able to transport much, much more assistance more directly to people in need. So this maritime corridor, if it transports aid, then great, but it doesn't solve the fundamental problems that are driving this humanitarian crisis.
And I know that it's your job to advocate for all of those things with the U.S. government. What are you telling them, especially, as the humanitarian situation in Gaza worsens by the day? What are you saying to the U.S. government, and what do they say in response to you?
Well, first and foremost, what we're telling the U.S. government is that they need to be putting all of their energy and all of their political capital behind a ceasefire, because there is simply no way to meet the immense and burgeoning needs of Palestinians in Gaza under this level of violence and with this level of humanitarian access. As you mentioned at the top of this program, people in the north are either experiencing famine or facing famine in a matter of days. What's needed there isn't just dramatically increased amounts of food, which is needed, but you need broad medical interventions to deal with the kind of severe acute malnutrition we're seeing, particularly in children. And that just can't happen in a place that's under constant bombardment, where people aren't allowed to go and where health facilities aren't functioning. So our primary message is all aid routes open, of course, focus on the ground routes, less so on this maritime corridor. But we need a ceasefire in order to do our jobs.
And, given just how much is at stake for the 2.3 million people in Gaza, how does the U.S. respond to your concerns?
Well, the U.S. government now, over the past month and a half, is on record supporting a ceasefire. They're not clear that they're supporting a permanent ceasefire immediately, and I think that's getting caught up a little bit into the details of negotiations between the government of Israel and Hamas. But the main point of tension there, the place that the U.S. government hasn't been willing to go until late yesterday, is to really make sure that all of the U.S.'s political and military leverage is used to push the parties toward a ceasefire and to push the government of Israel to allow all of the assistance that people in Gaza so desperately need to move in. I guess, and most of all, just seeing what's unfolding to prevent this major ground operation in Rafah from unfolding, which would be so damaging, not just for the people there who are living in fear, but for people all across the Gaza Strip who depend on Rafah as a hub for humanitarian assistance. And so what we're hoping to see now is the U.S. government further lean into that posture and really do everything it can to de-escalate the fighting, increase access to aid, and push for a ceasefire.
Scott Paul of OXFAM America, thank you very much for your time.
Make sure to subscribe to our channel to get the latest news from Al Jazeera.